Salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, gather around the virtual water cooler with us as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television, a few other things here and there. And, of course, it just wouldn't be today if it wasn't for the presence of one Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm doing well, but let me take this opportunity to wish you a very happy birthday. You're 29th, I believe.
It is, yes, the 19th anniversary of my 29th birthday. Yes, thank you.
Well,
thank you very
very happy to celebrate with you today, and I'm sure we're going to have a mirth-filled show, and I look very forward to it. But happy birthday, sir. May your next twirl around the sun be your best yet.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And yeah, I've got a really great day planned ahead for myself. Ann and I are going out to my favorite restaurant tonight, which I'm very happy about and very excited about. We're putting in an offer on a house today. So if you guys follow me on social media, you've been seeing the adventures of trying to buy a house in the Los Angeles area. It ain't easy. So we're putting in our fifth offer on our fifth different house today. So who knows? Maybe and yesterday, I'll let you guys know. Many of you guys know I've been working on a documentary, and yesterday was the most significant day of our documentary. Now, we got to interview a couple of people I almost assure you've never heard of, but we're probably the most significant people we got to talk to. I'm not going to share anything more than that, but I was very, very excited with how the shoot went yesterday. But listen, guys, we got a lot of great things to talk about here today. I don't know if you heard or if you felt the dramatic, tremble in the force throughout the universe, but Bob Iger ain't the CEO of Disney anymore. We're going to talk about that in detail and what that could mean for the future of one Kathleen Kennedy. We're going to talk about that. The 50 Shades author, because apparently the universe hates us, has gotten a new movie deal with Universal. We're going to talk about that. Jurassic World 3 now has its official title. Creed 3 seems to be on the way. That and a few things more. But before we get into our main topics, guys, we got a couple things to talk about here off the top, and we're going to start with this. Now, it feels, Rob, like I swear to God, it feels like it was just a month ago. And it might have been that we announced here, well, we didn't announce it, but we reported on the announcement of the new Snake Eyes movie. Yes, the G.I. Joe spinoff Snake Eyes, starring Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians, had begun filming. They had actually begun shooting. Well, jump ahead a little bit now. And, this just kind of reemphasizes a lot of people really overestimate how long it takes them to shoot a movie. Making a movie takes a long time, but to shoot. But Henry Golding has jumped on social media and he has said the following. And that is a principal wrap on Snake Eyes, ladies and gentlemen. What a crew we had, Vancouver and Japan. You were unstoppable. Thank you for the dedication. This film is going to blow everybody's socks off. So principal photography. Now, I'm sure there's going to be reshoots and stuff like that. All big films do now. So that's, I'm sure, still to come. But the principal photography on this movie is now wrapped. They've done shooting, at least the principal photography of Snake Eyes. And Rob, that is a story in and of itself. But one of the other things that really caught my attention, and I know it caught yours too, was look at the logo on the slate.
Oh, yeah.
There's a Cobra logo on the snake. And of course, you got your very traditional red, white, and blue G.I. Joe stripes going off to the side of the Snake Eyes thing. That's really interesting too. But the main dish here, the main entree here, is the Cobra logo. And I don't know why, Rob. I have no explanation for this. But I got to admit, I just assumed that Cobra wasn't going to be a part of this movie.
What?
Yeah, no, I seriously did, because I thought, if you're going to do Cobra, that's going to be in a fuller G.I. Joe movie. So I thought Snake Eyes was either going to be more of I don't know if I want to say an origin story or more of a solo adventure, a side thing, maybe his arch rival. I mean, I'm not really sure, but I got to be honest with you, I was not anticipating or expecting Cobra to be a part of this. And so when I looked at that image and I saw that slate, and I'll bring it up here again, when I saw that slate, I kind of sat up in my chair and go, wait a minute, what? And they're going to have Cobra in it. I got to admit, hearing that Cobra is in it is nothing more than premise, and it really shouldn't make me more excited for the movie. But it does. And I'm already excited for this movie. Seeing the Snake Eyes logo with that Cobra image on there, I have to admit, right or wrong, fair or unfair, reasonable or unreasonable, I got to admit, it does make me even a little bit more excited for this movie, and it's unquantifiable as to why, but it does. Rob, number one, you hear about the wrapping of shooting on this. How do you feel about that? Number two, what do you think about that Cobra logo being in there?
Well, first of all, hail Cobra. And second of all, I don't think they do that with their fists, but
I'm not sure they do either.
I think it's great. First, they announce this film. I love when they announce movies. They go make them, and then the principal photography is wrapped, and you know that they're coming. I love that. That's the way it should work, And I'm sure that unlike a lot of our big tentpole properties that wind up with a year of post-production work, this might indeed have a year of post-production work, but I don't know. Do you know when the release date is off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I can look that up, though.
Because, the last G.I. Joe movies they're kind of goofy fun. They're not movies I hated, even though there was an over-reliance on CG in the first one, and I enjoyed them. But I have to tell you, of all of the G.I. Joe movies, Snake Eyes interests me the most. And yeah, I know Ray Park and people can talk about all that, but Henry Golding, you can see his face. And I think that I like Henry Golding. I loved him in Gentleman. And after seeing,
so did I.
I mean, I was like, wow, dude, that's a long way from Crazy Rich Asians. And I think he's going to be a great Snake Eyes. I don't know how he can fight, but I can't wait to see this movie. I have to say, I'm really excited for it. And to see that, dude, Cobra head and the red, white, and blue of the Joe logo, I mean, come on. Who's not excited for that?
I got to tell you, and by the way, the film opens in 8 months. It opens on October 23rd of this year. So they're moving. I mean, they are moving really quick on this film. And listen, Henry Golding, he is impressing me more and more every time I see him. First of all, I thought he was devilishly charming in Crazy Rich Asians. Absolutely. And that's not the easiest thing. It's not like he was doing anything Shakespearean, but to pull off that kind of charm and charisma that he did in Crazy Rich Asians, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Now, it doesn't hurt that he's probably one of the top 30 most attractive human beings in the world. That probably doesn't hurt his charm and charisma too. But then you see him in something like I Loved Him in a Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick. Great. Yeah, I thought he was so good in that. And then The Gentleman, which was such a departure from what we've gotten used to seeing him as.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, I am liking this dude more and more, and I can't wait to see him in this. I think this is going to be spectacular. I really do. So who knows? I
do too, man. I think, 2020, we might not have an Avengers Endgame, but I have to tell you, it's shaping up to be. I don't know if you saw the featurette for No Time to Die yesterday that Cary Fukunaga explains his philosophy behind Bond. I don't think I've seen a piece of promotional material that has made me more excited for a movie, perhaps ever, than that. But now hearing that this wrapped and knowing that we're going to get it this year, I mean, we might not have huge, epic monster movies at the box office like Endgame or Rise of Skywalker, but there's going to be a lot of fun to be had at the theaters coming up, and I'm excited.
All right, question is, guys, for you, what do you think about the wrapping of Snake Eyes? What do you think about that little Cobra logo in there? Maybe you're feeling like, Campea, it's just a logo. It's just conceptual. It doesn't matter. It's all about execution. That's what I say all the time. Absolutely. So I cannot explain why. Just seeing that damn Cobra logo makes me more excited. How do you guys feel about it? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys, one more thing to talk about off the top here before we get into our main topics. And I just found this very interesting. Knives Out just is coming out. I believe it's out on home video now. Fabulous film.
Or yesterday.
Fabulous film. I love this movie. We sat around and watched it again the other night. Love this movie. Of course, got Rian Johnson Academy Award nomination. Well deserved. I even thought it had a chance to win that award. At any rate, he was being interviewed, and I can't remember exactly what it was about, but he actually said something that I thought was just interesting. This is not world-shaking news. I just thought it was interesting. And what he said was this. He revealed that Apple will not allow filmmakers to show a villain in the film using an iPhone. Apple will not allow any villain in a film to be shown using an iPhone. So this is specifically what Rian Johnson said. This is a part of his quote at any rate. He said, I don't know if I should say this or not because it's like lascivious or anything, but because it's going to screw me on the next mystery movie that I write. But forget it. I'll say it. It's very interesting. Apple will let you use iPhones in movies, but, and this is very pivotal if you're ever watching a mystery movie, bad guys cannot have iPhones on camera. Now, of course, what he's saying makes total sense now. So if you're ever watching a mystery movie, if you see a character with an iPhone, well, he didn't do it. That guy didn't do it. He's not thinking. So I just thought this was rather interesting on a couple of levels. Obviously, number one, Rob, we know there's a bunch of, we know product placement's a big thing in movies, right? Like we know that. You guys know that. I know that. And I would never even think twice about the idea that a villain wears a sharp Armani suit. Everybody wants to wear Armani suits. A villain is driving this super slick, awesome car. Everybody wants to drive that car. But Apple seems to feel, no. See, Apple is all good guys. And villains cannot use it. So I don't know. I get wanting to protect your corporate image and wanting to have a brand. Like, I understand what you want to have associated with your brand, but I just thought this was kind of strange yet interesting at the same time. And by the way, I don't even know for sure, Rob, if Apple can even have a say. Like, if I own an iPhone and it's mine and I want to do a movie and show me using it. So I don't know if this was pertaining to you're just not allowed to have an iPhone on camera, or if this is more of a, if you have a product placement deal with Apple, you cannot have your bad guy holding an iPhone. So I don't know which is which. I didn't get a lot of clarity on that. I just thought it was interesting. Rob, you heard about this. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, look, I understand why certain brands would not want their technology associated with the villains of a movie. But let's say you're making a Bond film. You know, I would want my most tech savvy, world imperiling villains to have the greatest technology of all. And you'd think that the villains would be the most astute when it came to using that kind of technology. So I would love to see them using my phones in movies. I guess it really, I mean, I get it. I understand that you don't want to have negative association with your product, but no publicity is bad publicity, right? and I think it's a little bit silly. I think that technology is ubiquitous, but look, I get it. I understand. I just think Apple is, and I am a dyed-in-the-wool Apple fan. I have been since I started working on Macintoshes back in, 1985? I'm a huge Apple fanatic. I always have been. I know, I'm part of the cult. Call me crazy. But I've used them successfully in my creative life. I love the integration of their products. And I think it's short-sighted. I think, anybody bent on world domination should have an iPhone because they've got great cameras.
Well, they do. Although the Samsung Note 10 Plus has a better camera. I'm just saying, but they do.
What happens?
I'll tell you what though, dude. I'll tell you what though. I'll tell you what. I used to own an iPhone and I have Mac computer. I mean, my main computer is a PC, but I have Macs here, and I used to own an iPhone, and I love my iPad Pro. My iPad. It's totally replaced my laptops. I haven't touched my laptop in over a month since I got my iPad Pro. I love this damn thing. It's great. But I am very, very diehard Android phone user. Like I love Android. And I used to use an iPhone. I'll tell you what, Filmic, is that what the name of the app is? Filmic, who makes this great video app for the iPhone to really give you full creative control over the camera and be able to shoot cinematically. They just recently released an app. I think it's called Double Take. I could be wrong about the name, but I think it's called Double Take. And what this app allows you to do is shoot and record with multiple cameras on the iPhone at the same time.
Wow.
So what I can do is I can hold up, so the back of the iPhone has like a zoom lens and an ultra wide lens, right? You could shoot both at the same time into separate video files. And then I can edit that together as, there's this one shot and then cut to another shot. And I could do that all in the edit. Or, and this is what made me tempted to buy one, Rob. This tempted me to go out and buy an iPhone 11. It allows you to shoot the camera in front of you and shoot the selfie at the same time. So like if I'm at CinemaCon, which is coming up, or if I'm at, D23, or if I'm at some festival, or if I'm at Comic-Con and I want to interview somebody, I can just hold up the phone, record you as I'm interviewing you, and record me at the same time. I can have it picture in picture. I can record it separate files. I'll tell you what, I am not an iPhone guy, but that one app very nearly got me to go up and buy an iPhone. I didn't do it, but it made me tempted.
I didn't know that existed, and
you got to get it, dude.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing to have.
Because I just want you to come over to my house so I can play with it on your phone. I mean, that's it. That's why you got to get it. But understand this, Rob, though. I just know that if I got it, though, apparently I can never be a supervillain in a film. So I got to stay away from that. Anyway, guys, question is, what do you think about all that thing? The idea that Apple won't let bad guys have films. Is it actually brilliant? Or is it really weird? I don't know. How do you feel about it? Jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With all that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with the main topics by simply going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. Hit submit. It's totally free. And then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission as one of the main topics here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Geeky Gator, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. I loved the first Creed, and the second one seemed like it may have been a good place to end it. However, Creed 3 is apparently being developed with writer Zach Balin, who wrote the upcoming movie about Venus and Serena Williams' father, being portrayed by Will Smith, as a matter of fact. Does the news of a Creed 3 excite you, or do you think it already ended fine?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, I was one of the guys who said, because, there are a few movies I've said that I just thought looked stupid and dumb, this is going to be idiotic, and then I see the movie and it's like, wow, I really love that. Creed was one of those. Like when they first announced that they were going to do a Creed about the son of Apollo Creed and stuff like that, I thought, come on, seriously? This is a dumb idea. This is dumb. This is stupid. The trailers weren't bad. But still, I thought this is a waste of time. Waste of time, Rob. And then I saw it and I loved it. Absolutely loved that movie. Creed 2 then comes out. And I got to say, I liked it a little bit more than I think most people did. But I think most of us will agree it's not as good as Creed 1. I thought still pretty dang good. Still pretty good. I love the kid who played Drago's son. I love the interaction between Rocky and Drago again and all that kind of stuff. I loved all that. But I also agree. I felt like it was done. Well, apparently it ain't done. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. Creed 3 is now being put into development, and Hollywood Reporter writes, the movie will continue the story of Adonis Creed, played by Michael B. Jordan. But exact plot details are not yet known. A director has yet to be confirmed. The first Creed film, written and directed by Ryan Coogler, who did such a great job, and then of course he also went on to do Black Panther, grossed $173 million at the global box office following its release in 2015. Creed 2 in 2018 was directed by Stephen Caple Jr. from a screenplay by Jewel Taylor and Sylvester Stallone and earned more than $214 million worldwide. Okay, so look, one of the things that we often talk about here when talking about the idea about should and will a studio move forward with a franchise is this. What is the trajectory at the box office been? Because a lot of times we see a movie comes out and then a sequel comes out and the box office drops, and that's not the kind of trajectory that a studio is looking for. Neither of the Creed movies, Rob, have been big, massive hits. Neither of them. Even the first one, which is a fantastic film. It got Sylvester Stallone an Academy Award nomination, as a matter of fact, playing Rocky again. But even though neither have been overwhelmingly successful, the fact of the matter is the trajectory's been going up. I think mostly because of the quality of the first one. And I thought the second one was pretty decent. I gotta say, Rob, I don't see the point of doing this third one. I agree with Gator on this. I felt like that second one was a really good ending. It was a really good ending, and it felt like, okay, yeah, this thing is now played out. Unless they have some kind of killer idea, like really killer idea, I'm not sure about the wisdom, number one, of making this one or the necessity of it. And here's the other thing that concerns me. One of the things you really felt, and I don't know if you agree with this, Rob, or not, but one of the things I felt like you could really feel the absence of was Ryan Coogler in the director's chair in the second one. You could really feel his absence there. So, I mean, if they were to announce tomorrow that Ryan Coogler, who is way too busy now, but that Ryan Coogler was going to come and actually direct Creed 3, you'd get my attention. But for now, I'm going to remain pessimistic about this. I was also pessimistic about the first one, though, and look how that turned out. So keep that in mind. But right now I feel a little, I'm just scratching my head. I just don't see the direction of this. Rob, you hear about a Creed 3. I know you love that first one, too. What do you think about them doing a third one right now?
Well, I think that the Creed, I've often held up the first Creed as an example of how to make an in-universe extension of a franchise that's run for decades. I always hold it up what Coogler did as a fan of the Rocky franchise and getting Michael B. Jordan, coming up with a storyline and really bringing an auteurist directorial vision to it is what made that movie special. And the proof was in the pudding there. Creed 2, I thought was a lot of fun. I thought the portrayal of Ivan Drago himself, turning him into a sympathetic character almost, it was it didn't say reach the emotional heights. I wasn't as connected with it as I was with the first Creed, but a respectable sequel nonetheless. If Creed 3 can give us the Rocky 3 of the franchise, maybe have the children of Survivor reforming and they're going to do a new version of Eye of the Tiger for the movie. I mean, who knows? I'm excited, man. I think this is a respectable franchise. Obviously, the box office has been going up and up. These are not expensive movies to make. And I think if they do, like you said, if they have a good idea, a good director, they have a great direction to move forward in it. I mean, obviously, they're moving forward, so Michael B. Jordan has probably already agreed, if he hasn't already signed on, to do it, which is great because I think he's one of the most exciting talents, young talents in Hollywood today. I've been a fan of him since Friday Night Lights. I don't see as there's any downside to it, man. I'm excited. Bring on Creed 3. You can't call it Electric Boogaloo, but whatever. Return of the Creed. I can't wait.
Okay, let me. I think I've got the idea. For Creed 3. I think I've got it. Here's your story, because where else can you go, right? Where else can you go with this movie?
Uh-oh.
I think I know where you can go now. I think I've got it. Okay. In Creed 2. The only direction you go is he fights Ivan Drago's son, right? Oh, that's the great. There's only one place left to go. Now he's got to fight Rocky's son. Rocky. He fights Rocky's son. Remember? Rocky's got a kid, everybody, played by Milo Ventimiglia from This Is Us and Heroes fame. And he's been working out. He's a big dude. He's a big, powerful dude now, one of the great actors. Now, of course, you might be saying, but John, Rocky's kid in the movies isn't a boxer. Pshaw! That's what he's been doing for the last 5 years off camera. He's been going off in training and boxing, and now he's pissed off that Adonis has taken the place as Rocky's son. He's like, now he's mad. He's going to come back. And then he gets an infinity gauntlet. And it's going to be great, Rob. I'm telling you, I've just come up. I've cracked the code. I've solved the puzzle. Have Apollo's son fighting Rocky's son.
What about the son of Tommy Gunn from Rocky 5?
Ooh, there you go as well. Oh my God, why'd you got to remind me? You know what? I'll say this too. I am also one of those guys that listen. Rocky 5 is clearly the worst of the Rocky movies.
It's not
I did not hate it as much as most people did. I didn't like it, but I did not hate it as much as most people did. But yeah, it was pretty rough. It's pretty rough. There's no doubt about it. All right, guys. Question is, of course, I'm kidding about the Rocky son versus Apollo son. But anyway, question is, guys, how do you feel about them doing a Creed 3? Or you're like, yeah, it's about damn time. Or you're like me, maybe you're like, huh? What are you doing with this? But I don't know. How do you feel about it? Jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Howard Stark Sr., who writes,
Isn't he
Greetings,
dead?
John. I just saw that the official title of the new Jurassic World movie is Jurassic World Dominion. I like the title a lot because it sort of tells me something about the movie, probably about how the dinosaurs are now roaming the whole Earth. Anyway, I know there were a number of other title options out there, but I wanted to ask what your thoughts about Dominion. Thanks. All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, not long ago, we did a story here on the John Campea Show about how the director, Colin Trevorrow, addressed a tweet that listed 20 possible titles, and Colin Trevorrow got on and said, actually, one of those is the title. And so then we discussed titles, and I think I remember Dominion being one of them. But yes, he got on social media, and he did reveal that Jurassic World, #1, has now started filming, so they're shooting. The film is now in production. But that the title of it, you can see underneath the name Jurassic World, is Dominion. Now, you guys know my basic feeling about titles in movies. They really don't matter. Titles don't matter. They don't tell us, they will not make a bad movie good. They will not make a bad movie or a good movie bad. They are, more than anything else, just a marketing tool. They are something that is there to help market the film. I also feel a little bit of similarity between how I feel about the title as I do about the trailer. I believe, or about a poster, I should say. I always say that I think the posters that I love the most are things that in one frame give us a sense of the spirit of the movie we're going to watch. Give us a sense of what the movie, can you capture the essence of a movie in one image? And that's a poster, right? I kind of like it when a name of a movie does properly kind of articulate this is the movie in one phrase, that sort of thing. So I like it when it does that, but again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. As far as the title Jurassic World Dominion, I gotta say I like it. I like it. It's strong. It's short. I kind of like that it's short, but it's strong. It's short. It's descriptive. So yeah, but at the end of the day, Rob, like I said, if Jurassic World 3 is a bad film, this title is not going to make it a good one. So it's really not that important. But overall, I kind of dig the title. Rob, you had a chance to take a look at that. How are you feeling about it? And what do you feel about the title Jurassic World Dominion?
Well, there's a Sisters of Mercy song. I'm a huge fan of the Sisters of Mercy, called Dominion. And when I first saw this photograph, I guess it was tweeted out on social media of the slate, I thought of that playing, and it's just a cool song. Actually, that entire album, Floodland, is cool. And I was, it just made me really excited and giddy because, like Howard Stark Sr., I heard this title and I'm like, yes, I hope that means that the entire world is now succumbing to the the dinosaur plague that has completely taken over the planet. And I hope there's dinosaurs everywhere. I want to see dinosaurs in the cities. I want to see them in the countries. I want to see them in the mountains. I want to see petrodactyls flying through the skies and interfering with international air travel. I want to see the planet completely dominated by dinosaurs, and we're all in big, big, big trouble. And that's what the word Dominion brought up in my mind. And I'm like, dude, count me in, sign me up. I want to see lots of people getting eaten. I want to see thousands of people running through the streets, running from rampaging Tyrannosaurus Rexes and whatever other raptors are running after them. Cannot wait, John. Bring it on.
And that is kind of what his short film that he put out a number of months ago, right? That's what it kind of teased us, that the world has to now adjust to the reality that dinosaurs are back. They're coming into the streets and they're coming into our campgrounds and all. And by the way, if you haven't seen, guys, that short film that Colin Trevorrow did for Jurassic World, what was it called? Battle at Big Rock or Battle at High Rock or Battle at Big Bear? I don't know, whatever it is. Battle of the Titans. You got to go check it out and see it because it is a fun little thing. But I think that does kind of suggest that we're going to get what you're saying you're hoping for, Rob, in it. So I hope that's what it is and it's not just kind of like a meaningless title. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, question is, how do you guys feel about the title Jurassic World Dominion? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today is causing tremors in the force all throughout the world, Rob. Our third topic today comes to us from Nate Dogg. And Nate Dogg writes, "Hey, John and gang, I can't believe it, but it sounds like Bob Iger has stepped down as CEO of Disney. How do you think this will affect Disney going forward? And what can you tell us about the new CEO, Bob Chapek? I know you're a big Bob Iger fan, so what do you think of this change? Thanks, and keep being filthy." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, Rob, you could feel it yesterday. The earth shook, the mountains trembled, the gods took notice. Bob Iger, the most powerful man in all of entertainment, decided to step down from being CEO of Disney. Now, there are a couple things, before we dive into the ramifications of this, there are a couple things to keep in mind here. On the one hand, while we were not expecting an announcement like that yesterday, we knew Bob Iger's time as heading up Disney was coming to a close. He's been talking about this for years, that his mission right now has been to get Disney into a place that it is ready for him to enact succession and to pass on the reins of Disney to somebody else. He's wanted to get a bunch of things in place before he moved on. Two key things, of course, was the acquisition of Fox and the launching of Disney Plus, which I believe are probably going to be the two things that stand most as his legacy, and he wanted to get those things done and in place. So we've known for a long time that he's been looking at stepping down and moving on. We know that his contract's been coming up. We know that he's gotten the things he said that were the most important things for him to get done, and now he's going to move on. And here we are. Now, we weren't expecting it yesterday, but we shouldn't be completely shocked by it at the same time. As far as the new CEO of Disney, Bob Chapek, so one Bob is being replaced by another. He seems like a logical choice to take over. This is what Variety writes. Chapek has headed Disney's theme park division since 2015. In 2018, he was up to chairman of parks experiences and products. Before that, Chapek held a range of senior management positions running consumer products, film distribution, and home entertainment at various times. Disney cited Chapek's success in launching Shanghai Disney Resort and Star Wars themed lands in domestic parks as examples of the skill that won him the promotion to CEO. There's a couple things here that really stand out to me, Rob, about what makes this guy the logical choice. Disney, a lot of us forget that Disney is not just a movie studio. Disney is a much bigger entity that goes well beyond just movies. But when you look at this guy, he has worked in customer experiences, in product, he's worked in theme parks, he's worked in entertainment and home entertainment and film distribution. This is a guy who has had his fingers in almost every slice of cake that Disney has. He's got that experience. He's been with the company for nearly 30 years. So he's been with them for a hell of a long time. So he actually becomes, while a lot of people were surprised by the announcement, he actually comes as kind of the logical choice, I think, not to mention he's worked very closely with Bob in the past. Now, another big important thing here, Rob, that people got to keep in mind is this. Bob Iger is still at Disney, and Bob Iger, until the end of 2021, is still the most powerful person at Disney. Bob Iger is still the chairman of the board of Disney. He is still the most powerful guy at Disney, but as being the executive chairman, he's not really going to be dealing in the day-to-day stuff. That's what the CEO runs. So Alan Horn, who heads all of Disney Film, is now going to be reporting to Bob Chapek and not Bob Iger. Bob Iger is going to be working with the board, overall creative vision of Disney and the future of Disney, stuff like that for the next year and a half, almost 2 years. But the day-to-day actual running and being the boss of Disney is now in the hands of Chapek. And Rob, one of the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear about a move like this is that I believe that Kathleen Kennedy's job is in peril at this. And I know there's probably a lot of you going, whoa, wait, where did that come from? Why did Kathleen Kennedy's name suddenly come in this? Here's the thing. Despite a lot of BS rumors you guys have heard, Kathleen Kennedy's biggest supporter has been Bob Iger. Bob Iger likes what Kathleen Kennedy does, and he likes what she brings to the table and all this kind of stuff. And for everybody who's whining and moaning, complaining, and even myself sometimes asking the question, how, like with all this, why is Kathleen Kennedy still in that position? There are many answers to it, but the most important one is the boss likes her, and the boss thinks she's good. Despite what I think, despite what you think, the boss thinks she's good. And with Bob Iger leaving that position, now the ultimate say in who is the head of Marvel, who is the head of Star Wars, who is the head of Pixar, that decision now comes down to, first, Alan Horn, but secondly, now Bob Chapek. There's a new guy in town. And Rob, to use a sports analogy, when a new head coach shows up at a team, what's usually the first thing that happens? They fire all the assistant coaches because they want that coach to be able to bring in his own people. The people that he needs to trust, the people that he needs to work with. And I think I'm not saying this is going to happen, but Rob, I won't be surprised if in the next 6 months, two things don't happen. I won't be surprised if, number one, I think Alan Horn retires within the next 6 months, because I think Alan Horn has been pleading to retire for the last 3 or 4 years. Everybody forgets Bob Iger talked Alan Horn out of retirement. They pulled Alan Horn out of retirement and said, we need you to come and save our film division. And Alan Horn came, boom, saved their film division, and look at the massive growth and success that they've had. But he's been basically, when do I get to go back to Tahiti? When can I leave now? Can I get back to my retirement? And I think now with Bob Iger stepping away, I think that now opens the door that Alan Horn can finally get back to his well-earned retirement, having all the success in the world that he's had. But I also think the second thing that we're going to see in the next 6 months, and I have no insider information on this, this is simply me saying this from a position of speculation, but I believe the second thing we're going to see within the next 6 months is that Kathleen Kennedy steps down as the head of Lucasfilm. I think we're going to see Bob Chapek come in and want to install his own person in there, start putting his own identity on things there. And again, let me be clear here. I have no insider information on that. That is simply my speculation looking at the situation, the moving on of Bob Iger just to playing the role of chief executive over there and letting Chapek take over the reins as CEO. I don't think we're going to see any changes at Marvel, except, Rob, you and I have both talked about in the past that we kind of feel, at least I feel, that once Alan Horn goes back to his well-deserved retirement, I feel like they've been grooming Kevin Feige to leave his position just heading up Marvel to become the head of all films at Disney and taking over Alan Horn's job. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea, but that's kind of what I've been speculating. Anyway, Rob, we could literally talk all day about this because we're talking about a guy moving on here, dude, who under Bob Iger's leadership, 2000, I believe, in 6, he acquired Pixar. 2008, he acquired Marvel. He later, for $4 billion, acquired Lucasfilm. He then took over Fox. He established Disney Plus, which I believe are going to be the two main hallmarks of what ultimately define his legacy. He has been remarkable for Disney at this point. But Rob, Bob Iger has stepped down. What are your initial thoughts about the stepping down of Bob Iger from the CEO role, the installation of Chapek, and what ramifications or fallout do you see coming as a result of this change?
Well, first of all, Bob Iger has wanted to leave for a while. And I think you're right. What you just stated, there's no more worlds for him to conquer, as Hans Gruber paraphrased the famous saying. But there's nothing more for him to do. And I think that launching Disney Plus was what he wanted to see happen. And it was much more wildly successful than even they thought. And seeing shows like The Mandalorian work, and then they probably saw that there are other shows like that Jeff Goldblum documentary series has done well. So why not go out on top? And like you said, he's sticking around to the end of his contract, to the end of 2021, and he's still got control of the creative division. So what he's going to do is solidify the direction that everything should be going in, make sure all the trains are running on time, and then he gets to retire triumphantly to whatever he's going to do, whether he goes into a career in politics, whether he's another captain of industry, whether somebody hires him to, I don't know, run a small banana republic. He can do anything that he wants, really. Now, I think replacing him, I think it's Bob Chapek, and I only say that because when I worked in Disney home video, I worked creating special features for them back in the early aughts. He was running the home video division.
Oh,
and he was doing a really great job, and everyone, he was very well liked, and he was very innovative. Disney was at the forefront of Laserdiscs in terms of doing special features. They jumped headfirst into DVD, and they embraced that. And then, of course, they carried that over into Blu-ray. And Chapek also working for the all the theme parks. He really understands holistically, probably better than anyone else on the planet aside from Iger, the whole company. He has a view of how all of their divisions are integrated, how one division feeds into another. And what's happening is with streaming, home video is basically going away. I mean, Disney's having a fire sale on their 4K discs. I'll bet you that there won't be a whole lot of Disney physical media. So they've got Disney Plus, they've got their theme parks, and they've got their motion picture division, and then all the other merchandising. And he's got a really great handle on that. And basically what Bob Iger is doing is he's launching this gigantic ship on its trans, planet voyage. And he's gonna make sure that the ship is crewed correctly, all the positions are taken care of. I wouldn't, if I'll tell you something, if in fact Kathleen Kennedy also decides to leave because she no longer has Bob Iger around to protect her, I'm sure they will both have a hand in picking her successor. That'll be another big thing. And whether they install Kevin Feige in Alan Horn's position, because if you have Alan Horn, Bob Iger, and Kathleen Kennedy leave, those are big shoes to fill. And I think that all three of them will have a big hand in picking their successors and what's going on, so they can make sure that, for the next decade, for the rest of the 2020s and into the 2030s, that Disney is in a really great place. And part of what happens with Disney after they leave is going to be part of their legacy as well. So I think, look, it's good. You don't want executives to stay longer than their shelf life. And if they're not having a good time, Bob Iger, you read his book, that guy was having a good time running Disney. And if it's time for him to go, it's time for him to go. He goes out on a high note. So he's going to work his ass off for that company until the day he leaves his office. So I think I see it as an exciting thing. I mean, I wouldn't be one of those shareholders that I'm not going to buy Disney stock now. I think it's going to be fine. I think the studio is going to be fine. And I do find it was kind of a surprise announcement, though. Nobody saw this happening yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was curious. I thought that was curious. I mean,
I think he wanted to do it that way, though. I think Bob probably, in the way Bob does all things, I think he just wanted to do it his way. He knew it was his time, and he was going to announce it whenever he wanted to, and there we go.
And you know what it is? It's like pulling a Band-Aid off a wound, and they have to think about their shareholders. And if it was this long, protracted thing, then people are going to be like, uh-oh, they would dread it. Nope. Bob Iger's like, nope, I'm out. I'm around here till 2021. So it's not like I'm leaving the company. There's no problem. So I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. He did it in the way he wanted to do it, that he thought would cause the least amount of disruption, because it doesn't even last a week in the news cycle. It was a big deal for an afternoon. We're talking about it today, and by tomorrow, it'll be back to thinking about how the coronavirus is affecting their international parks.
And I think you raise a really important point there. This is not if this was an announcement of, okay, in June, Bob Chapek is going to take over as CEO. No. It was, oh, by the way, by the time you're reading this announcement, Bob Chapek is already the CEO. It's done. They didn't draw it out. They didn't stretch it out. They didn't let fear. It's like, oh, look, he's already the new CEO. And the world hasn't fallen apart. And I think that's a really good observation, Rob. The other thing is this. I heard some people say, and it makes sense, say, who would want to be CEO at Disney if Bob Iger is still there and still like the most powerful guy in the company, even though it's not the day-to-day running of things, who would still want to be there? And that's a good question. But Bob Iger has always shown that he lets his people do their jobs. Like, for instance, I love Alan Horn. I think he is just one of the best film executives ever. But I was very, very critical of Alan Horn in the way he handled the James Gunn situation, right? But that was Alan Horn's decision to make. And Bob Iger said, hey, I just support Alan. Whatever Alan wants, that's his job. He doesn't interfere. He sets his goals and direction, and everybody's got to march in order and go towards what he lays out as the direction. But after that, he keeps his hands off and lets them do their thing for the most part. And I think Bob Chapek probably saw that up close and knows that, yeah, I can become CEO, and I know I'm going to be able to be CEO. And the board of directors is going to set the overall direction for the company, but then they're going to let me take it there. They're going to let me do my job. And I think that became an important part. So it is going to be interesting, Rob. I think Bob Iger stepping down is but domino one. It's going to be really interesting over the next few months to see how all the other dominoes fall as a result of him stepping down. It's going to be neat to see. Guys, I know many of you guys are probably going to want to bring this up more in the live questions, so we'll talk more about this once we get to the live questions aspect of this. But for now, what do you think about the stepping down of Bob Iger? What do you think about his legacy at the company? What do you think about this change? And what other changes do you think could be on the horizon as a result of Bob Iger no longer being there? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic and the final main topic today, topic number 4. And this one comes to us from Dylan Y, who writes, "Hey, John, someone has to explain this to me. We can't get a Man of Steel 2, but the lady that wrote 50 Shades of Grey, and I think we can all agree that the movies are just pure suckage, has just landed another movie deal with Universal. Like, seriously, how the hell does she get another movie deal when tons of great writers and scripts can't come close to getting made?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Dylan. And yes, I mean, I think the only news that could eclipse the departure of Bob Iger as CEO at Disney is clearly this. This is clearly the news to eclipse this. But for those of you who did not hear, here's where Universal and author E.L. James, the author, of course, of the 50 Shades books, are re-teaming on the Scribe's next novel, as the studio has optioned the rights to The Mister, James's 2019 best-selling romance. Rights for the book, which recently hit the market, sparked a heated bidding war. James, who produced every film in the 50 Shades trilogy, returns to produce this adaptation, which tells the story of a wealthy British aristocrat who falls in love with his Albanian housekeeper, unaware that she is on the run from human traffickers. Kill me now. Kill me now. Look, I don't know where to go with this. The 50 Shades movies are an abomination. They really, now, I will say this though. They're no 9.5 weeks. They're no 9.5 weeks. The first 50 Shades movie was bad. It wasn't the most terrible thing though. You know what I mean? Like, the first 50 Shades movie was not good. It was not good. It was a poor film. But honestly, in the, pantheon of wretched train wreck movies, I don't think the first 50 Shades is one of those. I just think it was a bad movie. Not colossal, not like dumpster fire, just a bad film. But dear God, when you got into the second two, when this author exercised her power over the movies to remove the director and writer, put in her own husband to be one of the creative leads on it, and all that kind of stuff, these were two of the worst motion pictures ever produced in the history of film. They're really that bad. Now, I can't comment on the novels because surprise, surprise, I've never read the novel, so I can't comment on the quality of those. Maybe they're great. I don't know. The movies were truly things of legend, Rob. Like bards will sing songs after the apocalypse of how bad the 50 Shades movies were. They were just terrible. So now she writes a new book, which I, again, full disclosure, I have not read. Maybe the book's great. I can't say it is or isn't because I haven't read it. But can I read that description again? So 50 Shades, about a super rich, wealthy guy who falls in love with a commoner girl. Okay, what's this new movie about? It's the story of a wealthy British aristocrat who falls in love with his Albanian housekeeper. Really? Isn't that just the same damn thing? Isn't that just the same damn... Again, I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But, how on earth does she get another movie deal? How on earth does this get made into a movie when we can't get a Man of Steel 2? When there are tons of great scripts and stories that never get a chance to be produced? I'll tell you why. Because the book's on the bestseller list. Because as much as you and I may not like the 50 Shades movies, they had money coming out of their proverbial asses on those movies. Those movies made serious bank. And as much as I believe that her getting this movie deal and this movie's being made is a sign that the universe hates us and all that kind of stuff, the reality is, if you were a movie executive, if you were a studio executive, you'd lose your job tomorrow if you didn't sign this deal. You'd lose your job tomorrow if you didn't sign this deal. Because whatever you and I think about them, they make money. They make obscene money. They make risque money. They make dangerous money. Look, whatever we think about them, they make money. So, Rob, I look at this and I say, yeah, I of course I hate this. I don't want to see it. But at the end of the day, if I don't want this movie, I don't have to go see it. It's just that simple. There are people who do want to see it. God bless. If they want to see it, they can see it. And if I don't want to see it, I don't have to see it. But you would be a fool if you were a movie executive and you didn't sign this deal because it's guaranteed money. So that's why this movie gets greenlit. Rob, I don't know. You see this situation. How do you address it and why does it get made?
Well, first of all, these movies are the ultimate realization of the fantasy that every woman has. Handsome, rich dude picks up common woman and makes her a queen, makes her a princess. And yeah, he's got a dungeon too. So they get to have the best sex of their lives. I mean, this is so. And remember, lest we forget, these books started out as Twilight fan fiction.
That's right.
So I mean, these books are and just a cursory glance, John, at Box Office Mojo tells me that collectively the 50 Shades movies grossed $1.3 billion collectively. These are not $200 million effects extravaganzas. These are very manageable movies with budgets, and they show beautiful people doing beautiful things in beautiful houses and beautiful cars, and it's wish fulfillment fantasy of the first order. I absolutely, dude, as you pointed out, you greenlight this and you greenlight it again twice on Sunday, and as a matter of fact, they probably greenlit 2 more sequels. It'll be like The Hobbit to Lord of the Rings. If the 50 Shades movies are the Lord of the Rings of this series, then maybe this new series will be The Hobbit, and they'll make 3 more. And look, I'm for any movies that are literary adaptations that make money. I think it's good for the business. I think it's good for books. I think it's good for reading, but I also think it's good for Hollywood. It's another franchise that appeals to a different demographic than, say, the normal viewers of this. It gets people into the theater. You know, it's very funny. Look at that movie Book Club, you know, with the,
right.
the actors. What book were they reading in Book Club? They were reading these books. And it's like, what a great cross promotion, right? And there's some product placement for you. So I think all this does is, to me, it says that the movie industry is healthy. And while we might not get a Man of Steel, you can't look at it that way, because whether these 50 Shades movies or now the Mister gets made has absolutely no bearing on any other movies. And that's what people have to understand. These are they're their own ecosystem. And just because this movie gets made doesn't mean another movie isn't going to get made. As a matter of fact, on the contrary, having this kind of tentpole that gets money coming in for a studio is better for the future of other movies to get made, because it's not like the Hunger Games. Everyone's like, let's do Maze Runner. You know, if they were going to do more softcore titillation titles, hey, we'd all be better off for that, right? But it's not like this genre is suddenly eating up all of the other genres of movies that the studios are making. So I think it's healthy.
Excellent observation as always, Rob. And the question here is, guys, what do you think about this? Yeah, you and I may not be fans of 50 Shades. We may think it's terrible, but we can't stick our heads in the sands and pretend that these things don't have their fans and they don't make money. So you and I will both absolutely greenlight this if we were studio heads too. But how do you feel about it? Jump on down into the comment section and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we are now going to move on to the live questions, and we're going to start hearing from you guys. Now, before we get to that, though, we are going to do as we do every day here. We're going to take a quick 4-minute break, stretch the legs, rest the vocal cords, refill our drinks, give you a chance to run, use the bathroom, talk amongst yourselves. So if you guys will be patient with us, just hang tight, give us a couple of minutes, and we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Clear. everybody, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as we took just a little bit of a break there to refill our drinks. Hope you guys had a chance to relax for a second. And now we're going to move on and start taking your live questions. So let's jump on over. We're going to start with getting caught up on a couple of the questions that were left over from yesterday, and then we'll roll into today's questions. So we're going to get things started here with Cheeseburger Randy, who writes, if the script and acting are just okay in the new Mortal Kombat movie, but the fight scenes and violence are amazing, would this movie get a pass for being a good movie video game adaptation? I cannot wait for a get over here followed by a fatality. No. Like, to me, you don't have to have Shakespeare in order to have a good action film. Don't get me wrong. But you at least got to have a good story. Have a good story with some good characters and some decent dialogue. Because to me, I've always felt that great action without narrative purpose is just visual noise. And I think Transformers is a good example of that. But I don't know, Rob, what do you feel about that? Do you feel like if everything else sucks about the movie in Mortal Kombat, but the action, the fighting is great, does that give you a pass for being okay?
No. I mean, look, I think of my beloved action scenes. I think of a movie like The Rad and The Rad 2, even Radder. And for people that don't understand that would be The Raid and The Raid 2 Barandal. I mean, those movies have an irresistible plot. They're simplistic. They're easy to understand. But the action, it all has to work together. I can't watch a movie that might have great action scenes and then the rest of it feels amazingly brain dead. I mean, that is what the Transformers movies are for. And even then, I could only really enjoy 2 of those movies for that reason. I mean, I would prefer that there's a way to make a great Mortal Kombat movie. You know, it's not just about the fighting. I mean, the problem with the Mortal Kombat game is really that's all it is. You know, you're not watching Mortal Kombat for the great cut scenes. You want to rip people's spines out and hear fatality or whatever. I mean, it's I think you need both.
All right.
Don't you want Mortal Kombat to be a good movie?
Of course I do. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit nervous because, again, it's a first-time director and a first-time screenwriter, so that makes me a little bit nervous. But
Yeah.
I want it to be awesome, so let's see how it turns out. All right, Clay Woodley writes, every year since 2008, we've had at least one movie cross the billion-dollar mark. If China is off the table because of the coronavirus, there could be no billion-dollar films this year. Well, here's the interesting thing, Rob. You and I talked about this a couple months ago. You and I don't see any definitive billion-dollar this year anyway. Like we talked about this about a month before the coronavirus stuff. We looked at the landscape. And yes, there are a couple of films that have the potential to maybe be billion-dollar films, but honestly, I don't see any. Like, there's no Star Wars, no Avengers. There's nothing like that this year that is a clear billion-dollar. Like that one, that one's going to be a billion-dollar film. Even without the China thing, I didn't see there being one. Rob, what do you think?
Well, look, man, I think No Time to Die. Skyfall made over $1 billion. And No Time to Die, the more I see it coming out from it, I think No Time to Die could actually make $1 billion. But I have to say, with this coronavirus thing, we're just a little shy of a month away from No Time to Die. And I think this coronavirus thing is really going to hurt its box office. And it looks, I think I was expecting it to make $1 billion. To be honest.
Well, I mean, only one Bond film has ever made $1 billion, and
I know,
that was that
that's
one.
True.
But how well does Bond do in China normally anyway? I'm not. I don't know. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying I don't know. I'm just asking curiosity because Star Wars doesn't make a big amount of its money from China. I'm just wondering how Bond does.
Bond does really well all around the world. You know, I mean, I think it's always been sort of a universal franchise, and the Daniel Craig movies have just, even Spectre, which I have to say, not a good movie. I'll flat out say it. I wanted to love Spectre. I love the opening pre-title sequence, but the rest of the movie is really beautifully made, but lackluster in terms of script. Even that closed in. It made like 800, 900 million worldwide, and I was expecting No Time to Die to be $1 billion movie.
All right. Next up, Suthius writes, hey guys, trailer for the new Netflix Transformers series looks pretty darn cool. It'll be the first time watching anything Transformers animated since Prime. Yeah, I got to admit, I didn't like it. I was not a fan. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. All due respect to Hasbro, who does provide half of my household income. They put a lot of money into my household. So thank you, Hasbro, for that. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But hey, just because I didn't like the preview, I didn't like the preview for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, one of my favorite movies of all time. Maybe I'll like the show, but I didn't like the trailer, to be honest with you. Matthew Phillips writes, hey, John, let's pretend that Star Wars: A New Hope remained a standalone film without any sequels/prequels. Do you think Star Wars would be beloved, or would it have gained a status like Dune or Krull? Would other sci-fi media, Star Trek, rule the genre? Here's the thing, Matthew. Now, listen, I was but a child when the first Star Wars came out. And maybe you were born, maybe you weren't born when it came out. But all you have to do is look back at the history. Dune didn't have people lining up for miles in front of the Chinese theater to see its debut. Saturday Night Live at Dune didn't take over the pop culture of the era when that movie came out. Star Wars made an impact on culture like no other film before it ever had. It had never happened before. And so I feel pretty... Now, of course, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, these things, of course, really cemented the legacy. But you have to understand that when that movie came out, man, it fundamentally changed everything. It changed everything just on its own. And that was before anybody knew there was going to be an Empire Strikes Back. So, yes. Would it have been a little bit more cemented because of Empire and Jedi? Of course. But, yeah, Star Wars would have still been looked at that way. Rob, you hear this question. How would you answer that?
Well, I think you did a pretty good job. You think about Dune. Dune was more of a literary sensation. It doesn't really have David Lynch's movie, and then of course the miniseries, and then the Children of Dune miniseries. It's not known. It's not a pop culture phenomenon. It's not something that people really, the general public doesn't really know about it. It's not going to be anywhere near. Never, no matter, it could be the greatest movie in the world, and it's never going to be a Star Wars film. It's not a 4-quadrant movie. It's a very dense, very intellectual franchise. And while, yeah, it has action in it, it's really more about court intrigue than anything else, and politics, and personal growth. Personal growth. And personal growth. Whatever you use the spice melange for, and then, where it goes. If it is, look, I hope Dune is a massive success. It's my most eagerly awaited movie of the year. I can't wait. I mean, we've got the best creative team. I can't believe the cast. And I hope they make all 6 of Frank Herbert's original Dune novels. I would love nothing more than that, but it's a risk, John. They're not even making the whole book. They've only made the first half of the first book, Dune. And if it's not, and they want to do a Bene Gesserit Sisterhood series, if this movie doesn't succeed, that'll be it for the Dune franchise. And this is by no means a slam dunk. I'll tell you this, the script is fantastic.
So you've read. All right. Next up, Anthony Tarulo writes, I felt there were 2 shoe scenes in JoJo. Well, yeah, you can make that argument, but only one that was the scene. Like the other one, you wouldn't be able to say the shoe scene and everybody would know what you talk about. So there was really kind of the one. Terrell Wise writes, what's your pros and cons on Clone Wars and Rebels? Pro for Rebels, it's pretty damn good. Con for Clone Wars, it's not very good. That's my pros and cons on them. Peter Pablo Reviews writes, I'm now into my 3rd month of reviewing films thanks to you, my mentor. Venom 2 and The Batman are filming at the same time. Andy Serkis stars as Alfred in one while directs the other. Amazing, but how? Listen, that is a great question. How is Andy Serkis directing one film and appearing in another? This is what it tells me. It tells me that Andy Serkis has a relatively small role in The Batman. And probably a role that he was probably able to film they probably arranged it so he could film all his scenes all at once. Or at least, hey, we'll just need you for 3 days here. So if you can get a 3-day break from directing your movie, we'll need you 3 days here. And then we'll need you for 2 days in 4 months or in 2 months to come in and shoot some pickups. But I have a feeling it's going to be one of those things where he's going to be able to film his scenes in a very, very short amount of time and probably not in a hell of a lot of them. That's only my guess, though. Because that's a great question. Like, how is he directing one and appearing in a different one? Rob, how do you think he's going to pull it off?
Well, look, I mean, how long is Venom filming for? The Batman might have a schedule of 4 or 5 months, maybe 6 months shooting. I don't even know. And I'm sure Andy Serkis, when he wraps principal, when a director wraps principal photography on a movie, they usually go away for a couple weeks. They don't even go into the edit bay. They've got to clear their heads because moving right into an editorial suite is not always the smartest thing to do. You need to clear your head, and maybe he's only shooting for 2 weeks, and he's opened up his schedule. And I think playing a new role is something that's actually probably pretty smart. And then he goes back in and intensively edits the movie for another 6 or 8 months while they're waiting for effect shots to come in and scoring and all the rest of the post-production. And I think that's what'll happen. He'll finish principal on Venom 2, and then he'll go shoot his role in The Batman. That's what I would imagine.
All right, next up here, we've got Donnie Yasu, who writes, apparently there's a petition with over 369,000 signatures to remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2. Irrelevant, completely irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. And I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of signatures on release of Snyder Cut as well, and we still don't have a Snyder Cut. So it doesn't mean anything, and I'm not going to get dragged into the whole political discussion about that either. All right, let's move on here. Next up. Double Crit writes, I bet 20 Wampa fruits Indiana Jones 5 will fail. I look, I don't even know if it gets made. And then it's impossible for me to say it's going to fail or not fail until we get some sort of sense from it. But I bet you if it gets made, it will not fail. In that, I don't think it's going to lose money. So I don't know that it's going to be $1 billion film, but I don't think it loses money. An anonymous viewer sends in a $50 tip. Thank you so much. So if there's a question in here, we will answer it now. We will also answer it in its own standalone video in the next couple of weeks. All right. Anonymous viewer writes, greetings, John. Utmost respect to what you've done on the channel. Thank you so much. Seeing that China's box office is currently closed, do you believe that this coronavirus has an effect on the success of Sonic? And do you believe it will surpass Detective Pikachu's 433 million? No, it has no. I don't believe it has. At this point, you look at how much money it's made. It's already had its biggest weeks behind it. It's less than halfway to 433. And it doesn't have the legs that I thought it was going to have. So no, I do not believe it's going to get to Detective Pikachu's 433. I also don't believe that Sonic, because Sonic is a Japanese, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Japanese product. I don't know that it would have made all that big of a splash in China. Maybe it would have. I don't know for sure. But I just have a feeling it probably wouldn't have made all that big of a splash in China. Rob, 2 questions. Do you think Sonic will get to that 433? And how big of an impact do you think China on Sonic would have been?
Well, I think, China also, with being that it's an emergent economy and they love technology there, they're building the world's technology. I think it might have been quite a hit. I don't know, like you. I really don't know what the profile of Sonic is, but video games are hugely popular in China, so perhaps it would be huge. But the fact remains, they're reporting even in Deadline that the worldwide box office because of this might lose $4.4 billion because of the coronavirus through March. That's a big number. It's a massive, massive hit. The theaters in China are closed down, and that's a gigantic market for the world. So I think if it's not Sonic, it's hugely detrimental to the world's box office. And I don't know how much. I don't know if Sonic will get to 400 million. I don't know, but unfortunately, any movie that's coming out that has come out in the last couple of weeks and probably all the way through, I don't know, until this thing burns itself out, it still's on the uptick. So who knows? But it ain't good for anyone, and it's unfortunate, and it's certainly not good for the thousands of people who've died and the many more who are sick. So hopefully that they'll be able to. I've heard that they're testing a cure now, so we'll see what happens.
All right, next up, and another anonymous writer writes, why is it so hard to contain this coronavirus? I mean, you're asking the wrong guy. I don't have a medical degree. But you look at how easily the flu spreads. I mean, it's just one of those things, so it's really, really tough to contain. John Demoto writes, hello, John. Do you think we'll ever get a sequel to Inside Out? Inside Out is up there with The Lion King as my favorite animated movie ever. It's not one of my favorites ever, but I love Inside Out. But I really don't see where you go with an Inside Out. I mean, I think Inside Out and its premise has a limited shelf life, and I think they played it to perfection in the one movie. I think drawing it out anymore is just going to make the gimmick of it, and gimmick can be a very, very good, powerful thing. But I think the gimmick of it is will feel tired pretty quickly because they've kind of been there and done that. So, and story-wise, there's really nowhere left to go. So I'm not anticipating. I mean, hey, I'll be there day one if they do it. But no, I am not anticipating that we're going to get an Inside Out 2. Matthew writes, I hope Indiana Jones 5 will Peter, then 4. I hope Indiana Jones 5 will Peter, then 4. I don't know what we're saying, Matthew. Sorry about that, man. Jacob C. Lancey writes, theory, Vulture cameos in Venom, recruiting Sinister 6. I don't believe there's going to be a Sinister 6 thing. I think Sony is still painfully recovering from their misguided attempt to do a Sinister 6 before with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't see them going back to that anytime soon. They might. But as far as the other part, we could very well see Vulture cameo, Michael Keaton cameo in Venom. I mean, we know he's going to pop up in Morbius, so that's possible. Not the real Jack F. writes, John Goodman will play a doo-wop girl in Little Shop. Sign me up. Sign me up. Put John Goodman in anything, Real Jack. Sign me up. I'd love to see it. Jeffrey Hemphill writes, I wish I could debate The Lighthouse or delete The Lighthouse from my voodoo list because I will never watch it again. The reason why happened 3 or 4 times. Why be repulsive? Will you ever watch it again? I'll probably watch it again. I think it's an interesting movie at least.
Yeah.
At the very least. Just because, and I don't know, dude, I'd say you got to get over something just because listen, do you think murder is repulsive? A lot of murder happens in movies. You don't find that repulsive? I'm just saying, like, you got to put it into context. It was a really weird movie with some incredibly breathtaking performances. So yes, I will probably watch the film again. Even though, guess what? Movies have bad things happen in them. Otherwise, it'd be pretty boring movies. I don't know, Rob, do you have any desire, or are you going to watch The Lighthouse again?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, I think there's a lot to learn about the craft of movie making. I think Robert Eggers, there's very few directors working today that can create a mood. I mean, you really feel what it's like to be in that lighthouse, just like you really felt what it was like to live back in the day in The Witch. And I think just, how did he do that? How does he make you feel? And if you're repulsed when you watch a movie, that means the filmmakers really did a good job doing what they set out to do. And that's worthy of praise and worthy of study.
All right, let's move on here. Next question up comes to us from an anonymous viewer who writes, as some who played the shop owner, Mr. Mushnick in my high school's Little Shop of Horrors, I want Danny DeVito to play him, to be in this film. Well, I mean, look, you know my whole feeling on X actor, next role. I don't care as long as you get a good actor. But I am a big Danny DeVito guy too. I will see him in anything he wants to be in. I even really liked him in the new, I almost said Jurassic World. I even liked him in the new Jumanji. I actually quite like Danny DeVito in the new Jumanji, as a matter of fact. So he signed me up for anything with Danny DeVito. All right, Lowell writes, why did the Golden Globes nominate The Martian for Best Comedy? Dude, we've talked about that ad nauseum for a long time. It's one of the stupid things about the Golden Globes. It was an idiotic thing for them to do. They wanted Matt Damon to show up. That's why they do half the things they do. Harley Quinn is one of my favorite shows now. As an actor, my favorite is Clayface. Clayface is so great, but I love Dr. Psycho. I love King Shark is so great. Bane is fantastic. My favorite character in it, though, Lowell, is Poison Ivy. That's my favorite character. Jacob Silvers writes, if we ever get a Last of Us movie, I hope Hugh Jackman plays Joel. Thoughts? Nah, a little bit too on the nose, because too many people have already compared that to Logan. A lot of people compared Logan to Last of Us, a little bit too on the nose, but again, it comes back to the same. I don't do the whole X actor and X role. Just as long as somebody's a good actor, that's all I care about. So Hugh Jackman, sure, but you could probably list 40 or 50 other really good actors that I'd also go, sure, about, but I don't think you're going to see that because, again, it's just a little too on the nose, I think. A little too on the nose. Lowell also writes, with many, including Star Wars and Indiana Jones, learning from past mistakes, I'm reminded of a movie quote. In order for you to learn my teachings, I must first teach you how to learn. Rob, come on, buddy. Where's that line from?
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue.
In order to learn from my teachings, I must first teach you how to learn.
Is that Karate Kid?
You must learn to master your anger, or my anger will master me. Mystery Men.
Oh.
Mystery Men, as from the great Sphinx.
I know you love that movie.
One of the greatest movies, Rob. One of the greatest movies.
I'll
That
have
and
to watch
Hook.
it.
You and I got to do a Hook Mystery Men double feature, followed by Megaforce. Triple feature, Megaforce.
We can agree on Megaforce. Deeds, not words, John.
It all comes around, Rob. It all comes around.
And the Concorde Airport 79.
Where'd I go? I lost my spot here. Oh, here we go. Sir Dakin writes, just a bit of trivia. As a fan of the new Harley Quinn, Katie Kuko voices her, but in the most recent Batman and Harley Quinn movie, an animated straight-to-video movie, made in 2017, Melissa Raunch voiced her. Just thought that was interesting. I don't know who that is, Rob, do you? Melissa Raunch?
No.
I don't.
Sounds like she's somebody I want to meet.
Yeah. All right. But guys, seriously, watch Harley Quinn. It's so bonkers and over the top and quick. There are no pauses in this show, Rob. Not even in between dialogue. I mean, it's just go, 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 go. There's such a crazy pace to it. And is it a little vulgar? Yeah. Yeah, it's real vulgar, but it's real fun. It's real fun at the same time. Okay, let's move on here. Let's see. Daniel Hinosa writes, are Nolan's films too exposition heavy? There's times you can make that argument, but the thing is, a lot of Nolan's films require a lot of exposition. So there's that. Rob, would you say there's too much exposition in Nolan films?
No. It's funny. I went back and watched Dark Knight Rises recently, and I would say that the first 35 minutes or 40 minutes is almost all exposition, and I love it. That's why I love his films. I mean, people say that Inception, well, it's all exposition. And I'm like, so what? It's very entertaining. I find myself intellectually stimulated. I love his movies.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, Blue Jay writes, DC originally ordered 26 episodes for Harley Quinn, so they made 13 episodes for season 1 and an additional 13 for season 2, so that's why I'm still stoked. But even though they did that, because for some of you who might have missed the thing yesterday, they are doing a season 2 of Harley Quinn launches in April, just 4 months after the debut of season 1. And that's kind of strange. But so I understand, but a lot of times shows get multi-episode orders, but then they still spread them out. And so it's still kind of crazy. It's interesting to see. Hey guys, listen, I've got a slight technical problem that I need to deal with here. So I'm going to take just like a 1 minute break. I'm going to take a 1 minute break here. Don't go anywhere. Just let me get this fixed up here and then we will be right back. Hang tight. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I had to take care of that. I got to get that fixed. It's fixed. It's ready to go. And we're going to dive right back into it here. Okay, where were we? I think we just did the J thing. All right, Calvin writes, how do we as film fans defend a film like Birth of a Nation, tell people it's a great film, even though there are parts of the film that we find offensive? Well, I mean, look, every film has the potential of offending somebody. Being offensive is as subjective as anything else. There's something you may find offensive and everybody else finds it perfectly fine, right? So you really got to look past that part. I think if you find a movie to be good, you can say it's good. That's up to you. If you find a movie offensive, you can say you find it offensive, and that's perfectly fine too. So I don't know. That gets into a whole subjective thing, Rob, that I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for it, to be honest with you. Rob, how would you answer the question? How do you just defend a film saying it's good if you think it's also offensive?
Well, look, I mean, that's a tough call, but if a film is offensive, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not good. Especially with historical films, you're looking back at films from, I don't know, 100 years ago where culture has changed. That still doesn't mean that at the time the movie wasn't significant and didn't have something to say, even though, I mean, in the case of, the movie like Birth of a Nation, it's basically a pro-Ku Klux Klan movie. And obviously that is offensive. It would be like making, Triumph of the Will. Leni Riefenstahl's movie that celebrates the Nazism. I was raised a Jew, and that movie can be hugely offensive now, but there's no doubt that if you go back and you look at Leni Riefenstahl's movies, whether it's Triumph of the Will or whether it's Olympiad, she was a groundbreaking filmmaker, and I can admire the technique. But I think any movie she was a German filmmaker working during the rise of Nazism, and she made this movie bringing all of her creative powers to it. Watching it now, it's chilling and scares the F out of me, but I can't not recognize the genius and the groundbreaking work she did in cinema. That doesn't mean it's not offensive or it's not scary. But at the time and where she was working, it was groundbreaking cinema. So it's a tough one.
Yeah, it's tough, and I just don't know that there's any one correct answer to it, to be honest with you. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, going off the question about Harley Quinn, another show that started season 2 just a couple of months after season 1 is the current DuckTales reboot. I didn't even know there was a DuckTales reboot. Which worked great because that show is so much better than it has any right to be. Can't wait for more. I'm not a qualified person to give an opinion on that. I have never seen I did not even know a new rendition of DuckTales existed. But I'm sure anybody else who does is probably saying hallelujah and amen to the screen right along with you, Ryan. All right. An anonymous viewer writes, hello, good sir. Going to my first Comic-Con this weekend, C2E2. I don't know what that is. Do you have any recommendations for things to do or see? Again, I don't even know what C2E2 is, so I can't say. Rob, do you know what C2E2 is?
I don't. Let's see what it is. I'm looking it up right now.
So I clearly have never been there, so I can't.
Oh, you know what it is? It's Chicago's. Yes, it's Chicago's. I didn't know it was called C2E2. It's Chicago's big pop culture event, the Chicago Comic-Con.
Oh, I've never even heard of it.
It's a huge Comic-Con. My friend John Suntress is going, doing a lot of interviews there. It's a big deal. It's not quite as big as San Diego, but it's a huge Midwestern convention. And being in Chicago, I'm sure it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've never been there, and I've been through Chicago, but I can't say what you should do or say there, or should do or see there, because I don't know what's going to be there at all.
I mean, I think it'll be terrific. I'd love to go.
I've never been to the New York Comic Con. I might try to go this year.
Yeah, I
might try to go this year. We still got to get our travel arrangements made for CinemaCon. That I'm looking forward to. CinemaCon I look forward to every single year.
Dude, it's going to be great this year.
Anyway, Anonymous, I hope you have a great time at it, regardless of the fact that I've never been there. From what Rob said, it sounds like a lot of fun. I hope you have a great time at it. All right. Darth Picard writes, Starfleet Armada versus Death Star and 10 Star Destroyers. So this is not a question of what's better, Star Trek or Star Wars. It's not a question of that. It's how do the creators of each of those define what those things are? Because Star Trek tomorrow could write an episode where they have a new moon-sized battleship that can destroy planets with a push of a button. And then that changes things. They could do that if they wanted to. And Star Wars could then write something that's even bigger and better. As they are written, because that's the way they want to be, the thing with the Star Destroyer wins. I mean, that's kind of probably it. Probably the thing with the Star Destroyer wins, I guess. Not to mention Star Destroyers... the thing with the Death Star wins, not to mention Star Destroyers like carry fleets of individual fighters. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, Discovery, I know Rob doesn't want to hear this. Discovery, the last season, they had an awesome battle sequence where it was like it was the Enterprise and the Discovery versus this other fleet of ships, like of Federation style ships coming in. I thought it was for television. I thought it was pretty spectacular. But I'm going to say the thing with the Death Star wins, but only because that's how the two different things are written. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. But Rob, I have to give you a say in this. Armada, Starfleet Armada versus the Death Star and 10 Star Destroyers, as written. Which fleet wins that space battle, fictional space battle?
I've had these conversations. I do Starship Smackdown every year at Comic-Con, and
right.
The thing is that the physics in each universe is different.
So different.
And I think that Federation starships and the starships in the Star Trek universe are far more powerful than simple beam weapons and what they have. People are like, well, the Star Destroyer has fighters. The Enterprise, the TIE fighters would bounce off the shields of a starship. And I think one blast, if the Enterprise wanted to take out the Death Star, one blast from its phaser banks could get right into the exhaust port, would cut right through the center.
Oh, come on.
One shot would take the Death Star out. And all a starship would have to do is stay on the opposite side of the Death Star from its main weapon, its primary weapon, and the Death Star wouldn't have a chance against the Enterprise.
Oh, please. Then how come the Enterprise gets destroyed? Give me a break. Okay, this is now devolved into a Star Wars versus Star Trek discussion, which we won't bore you guys with. All right, where are we at here? Next up comes to us from Brandon Stringer, who writes, Hey, John, great show, by the way. Thank you so much, Brandon. I live in the UK and have not long ago finished watching the show Smallville. I loved it. What's your thoughts on the idea of rebooting Smallville? Ooh, I don't like the idea at all. With today's standards of storytelling and CGI compared to back then, Smallville was a very charming show. I enjoyed Smallville, and I love Tom Welling in it. But I don't know that you can reboot that. You can continue it. If you want to do like a Will and Grace and come back and get Tom Welling back and get, everybody else back and show the continuing stories of this Clark Kent and all that you could do. But rebooting, like Smallville was already in and of itself an Elseworlds kind of story. It wasn't Superman. It wasn't the real Superman. It was this Elseworlds kind of imagine a world if kind of thing. And I don't know that you reboot that. And so, yeah, I like the show, but I don't think that's something you can reboot. Rob, what do you think about the idea of rebooting a Smallville?
Or are you
going to now tell me how the Enterprise can fire a beam and it would kill Superman? Is that what you're going to say next?
No. Superman would be impervious to even the phaser banks of the Enterprise. No, I think that, yes, what you said about how Smallville was in its own universe, I thought is very astute. I just think that we've moved on. I mean, Smallville went, 10 seasons? Do we need to reboot that?
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, I would rather see, go back in Lois and Superman, whatever this new show is going to be. It would be interesting if they had flashbacks to Superman's youth, and maybe they could delve into his past in Smallville there. But I don't think we need another Smallville.
All right.
I don't think so.
All right, next up, Super Cam 13 writes, "Hey John, happy Mardi Gras from Louisiana. Damn, I'm a little bit jealous. I would love to be there. After hearing Bob Iger stepping down, who was the better chairman, Iger or Eisner?" Iger. I personally think Eisner is, because of how he left Disney. He gave us the Disney decade, Renaissance era, and Disney Broadway. Yeah, that's not true. Look, not to take anything away from the Eisner era, but you look at everything that defines Disney now. It's been Bob Iger. I mean, he oversaw the acquisition of Pixar. He oversaw the acquisition of Marvel. He oversaw the acquisition of Lucasfilm. He oversaw the development of what their future is, which is the Disney Plus streaming platform. He oversaw the biggest media acquisition in history by taking over Fox, which is really part of his strategy for the streaming platform moving forward in years to come. But you just look at the way he fundamentally defined Disney. And then oversaw a lot of the changes in the parks and things like that. To me, like Eisner and other CEOs before him have done great stuff, but to me, it's really not even close. It's Bob Iger when you really look at the grand picture of things. In my opinion, Rob, how would you answer that?
I agree with you. I mean, it's amazing. The tenure, it's unassailable, and it's going to be fine. It's all going to be fine.
All right. Next up, we've got Jennifer Garner writes in and writes, "Just want to tell you that I think you are the smartest, funniest, and most handsome man on the planet. Have a happy birthday." Oh, if it were only really Jennifer Garner. Oh, if it were only really Jennifer Garner. But anyway, regardless of whoever wrote it, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. All right, Kenneth Colton writes, "Happy birthday, Gio. Hope you have a great day with family and friends." I'm already having a great day because I'm hanging out with my film fan loving friends here. Thanks for everything you have done. I salute you, Captain Canada. On a side note, I would never have imagined Bob Iger leaving Disney like this. Hey to Robert Meyer Burnett, who does a show about something. But you know what? It was surprising. I didn't expect to hear that announcement yesterday. But
No.
leaving like this, completely on his own terms and in his own timing and of his own choosing, is exactly the way Bob Iger would leave the position. Now, of course, we all got to keep in mind, he is still the most powerful person at Disney. He's still the executive. He's the chairman of the board. But that means he's let go of all the day-to-day running of the company things and going to be overseeing vision, overseeing creative direction for the company with the board, as they've always done. But he's still there. But yeah, wasn't expecting the announcement, but it's exactly the kind of way that Bob Iger would make it, on his terms, in his way, and in a very quiet way, like Rob was pointing out, the change is already made. He didn't announce it in 3 weeks. This other guy's going to be CEO. This new guy's already CEO. We've already made the change. It's done. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go be chairman of the board now. It is exactly the Bob Iger way, which I thought was kind of fun. All right, Not Kevin Feige writes, "Marvel has already sprinkled X-Men connections into the MCU in the Disney Plus shows." No, they haven't. There will be an Easter egg of Madripoor and Sword will make a presence. Sword began with X-Men, and Clark Gregg even said they didn't have the rights to it before the merger. But that's not look, even if that's true, which I'm not even sure that is true,
Right.
That nobody associates Sword with X-Men. Nobody associates Sword with X-Men. It's not a real connection there. Rob, how would you address that?
Well, I don't. Again, I can't speak to what was owned and what wasn't owned pre-merger or post-merger, but I think that we're going to start seeing a lot of things appearing in these movies, and I'm excited to see all this stuff, but I don't think it means anything one way or another, other than the fact that we're just going to see more of the Marvel Universe explored.
All right. Next up here, Christopher Chow writes, let's take a moment to appreciate Bob Iger's legacy at Disney as Disney CEO, creating Disney Asia Parks, purchase of Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, Fox, and 7 $1 billion movies in 2019. I think there was more than that. That's more Alan Horn, but hey, he is the boss. Greatest Disney CEO of all time. Walt would have been proud of Iger. Again, when you look back at just the definition of what Disney is today is a reflection of what Bob Iger has shaped it to be. And he did so not only as CEO, but also as the chairman of the board. He was the ultimate, he was completely in power and completely in charge of Disney from the top all the way down. And there's no one person more responsible for, of course, a lot of people contributed, but there's no one person who was more responsible for all that than Bob Iger. And I agree, that's just incredible. Bob Chapek, to succeed Iger, since he was the head of Disney Parks and Experience, do you think he will improve the parks, since some people have complained that the Disney parks have been neglected lately? I haven't heard that myself. I haven't heard people complaining that the parks have been neglected. I do know this, that even now, Rob, well after the new Rise of Resistance thing has opened, my buddy Soul, I still have not been able to get on the ride. My buddy Soul went 2 days ago. Him and his friend got there at 7:30 in the morning, got their name on the list, didn't get on the ride until 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
And he said the park, ever since that ride has opened, has been an absolute madhouse. And Ann and I are supposed to go on Saturday with some friends. We're annual pass holders, but we're supposed to go with some friends. And I'm like, I don't know if it's so smart for us to be going to Disneyland on a Saturday right now. Because right now, it seems, because we're never going to get on Rise of the Resistance. We're never going to get on it. There's no chance in hell we're going to get on that ride. So, I mean, I don't know. It is a weird thing. But again, we were talking a little bit earlier that you and I both feel that he's the guy, right? Like, we both kind of feel like that Chapek is the right guy for this right now. And do you feel like that he's got the credentials to do it right now?
I do, because remember, look, this was not a decision that was made lightly. Disney is a company that is incredibly valuable, and these kinds of major shakeups in the executive staff can be costly when it comes to shareholders. And I think that this was thought through for a long time. Bob Iger did this. He came up with this on his own. I think he's very confident. And Chapek is a guy that knows the Disney organization. I mean, he's really worked through it. I know, like I said, when he was at Home Video, and he was a very well-liked executive that made some bold moves and really did great with that department. And I'm sure I've heard criticisms leveled at him about the theme parks, but I can't speak to that. The theme parks seem to be doing great. And the investment they made with Galaxy's Edge, at first people were poo-pooing it, but now that Rise of the Resistance is open at both Disney World and Disneyland, Galaxy's Edge is doing booming business. I read an article about Savi's Workshop and how much money they're making selling lightsabers a year, and it's like $20 million a year is taken in by Savi's Workshop alone. I mean, that's staggering. So I think they've got a good man in Chapek.
All right, let's keep rolling here. Suthius writes, hey guys, why exactly are Wonder Woman's boots healed? I was asking the exact same fucking question. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, we give Bryce Dallas Howard flack for running with heels in Jurassic, but she takes them off. Sure, Diana is an Amazon and could probably fight in heels all day, but why design the boots that way? Nitpick on now. I don't think it's a nitpick. I think it's stupid. It's stupid. And I love Wonder Woman. I love what Patty Jenkins is doing with it. I cannot wait to see Wonder Woman 84. And the fact that Wonder Woman is in heels is not going to make the movie better or worse. So that's fine. But it is, Suthius, you're not alone, man. That is the dumbest thing. That is the absolute dumbest thing. What is a warrior going to do? The heels make them fight better? No, it doesn't. It's stupid. It's stupid. I hate it. It's not going to make the movie any worse. I'm sure Patty Jenkins is still going to make a marvelous movie, and I can't wait to watch it. But that is stupid. It's kind of like Black Lightning's costume. I like Black Lightning very much. Stupid costume. Stupid costume. Detroit Dog writes, hey, John, was wondering if you've seen The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. It's a series that shows us the minds behind history's most iconic toy franchises. Each episode features a different toy line. There's one episode, I know you love Transformers. Well, actually, Detroit Dog, Rob and I, we've talked about this show quite a bit. We've talked about The Toys That Made Us quite a lot. Rob, do you got a favorite episode of The Toys That Made Us?
God, I don't know if I have a favorite episode. I like the episodes that deal. I like the Barbie episode, believe it or not.
Oh, it's real good.
And I like learning about the thing about that show that I love so much is that it's not just about the toys, but you hear the story of the company that made the toys, and it's also a story about an American or international business. Lego was another good episode, and Hello Kitty was an interesting episode.
The Lego one was a great one. The Lego episode was a really great one. All right, let's see here. Akamaru writes, just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Thank you so much, Akamaru. I appreciate that, man. Detroit Dog also writes, hey, John, if you could have one of the following, which would it be? A new Star Wars trilogy that's the best you have ever seen. Yes, even better than the originals. Or the Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. All right. It's actually an easy one for me to answer. The Toronto Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup. Why? Because of this. The Toronto Maple Leafs, Rob, have not won a Stanley Cup. Hell, the Toronto Maple Leafs have never even been to the Stanley Cup Finals in my lifetime. In my lifetime. They've never been to the Stanley Cup Finals. Star Wars is already Star Wars. The original trilogy is there. Favorite movies of all time, blah, blah, blah. That's already there. I at least got that. The Leafs have never been to the Stanley Cup Finals as long as I have drawn breath on this earth. That's a long time, dude. So I don't know. If you were in my position, Rob, would you rather have your favorite team win the title or say the next Star Trek movies, the next two Star Trek movies to come out to be the best Star Trek movies ever made? What would you take?
Come on, dude. I'd take the Star Trek movies. Star Trek's been bad for a decade.
Well, because you've had the Seahawks win the Super Bowl already, though. That's different, I guess.
Don't bring up the second Super Bowl.
We won't talk about the second appearance in the Super Bowl there.
Don't do it.
All right. Hey, listen, guys, we're already well over time here for Rob. He's got things he's got to do, so we're going to let Rob take off now. But Rob, thanks again for being here, man. Listen, in the meantime, where can people follow you and your adventures online where you talk about something?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at Robert Meyer Burnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and my show, Robservations, the show about something.
All right. Thanks a lot, as always, dude, and I will talk to you later, my friend.
All right.
All right. Let's keep things right on rolling here and we still got about 15 minutes here, so let's keep rolling with your questions right now. We're going to pick things up with Angel Chang, who writes, isn't really cool when you hear a family all work Isn't it really cool when you hear a family all work in the film industry? The Hemsworth, the Howards, the Skarsgårds, and hey, even now, the Spielbergs. I'm not familiar with this. Does Steven have somebody else working in this? Does he have I'm not familiar with it, but Steven Spielberg is my all-time favorite filmmaker, Angel. So now I got to go look it up because I'm not really quite sure who we're talking about here. You forgot the Baldwins. Don't forget about the Baldwins. There's lots of great family stuff in the entertainment industry. Mr. 47 writes, have you seen Frozen, the one about the ski lift getting stuck? Oh, yes, I have. Actually, I interviewed the filmmaker, the actors in it, the whole bit, about the ski lift getting stuck and they're caught by the wolves. Not the Disney one. So if so, what are your thoughts? As a Canadian, it must be really scary, a true nightmare for somebody in the North who loves riding the white powder. It's not great, but it's intense. So this movie Frozen is about these friends who get stuck on a ski lift and nobody knows that they're up there. They're just hanging above the ground and they're freezing to death. And meanwhile, there are wolves that come out at night. It's intense. Again, not the greatest movie, but it's intense. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, and it's got the kid who played Iceman in X-Men. It's either him or his brother. One of the two brothers. The kid who played Iceman in the X-Men movies. It's either him or his brother that stars in this one. Anyway, it's an intense little film. You might want to check it out. It's an interesting one. Okay, next up here, we got another one from Mr. 47 who writes, rewatched Uncut Gems, still makes me anxious even though I know what's going to happen. Shame this was snubbed at the Oscars. One of the best of 2019. I disagree. Listen, 2019, actually, I guess I can take these off. 2019 was such a great year for film. Like, we've talked about this a lot. It is truly a momentously incredible year for film. That there were a lot of great films. I really enjoyed Uncut Gems, but I did not feel it got snubbed. It's just, and that's not a poor reflection on Uncut Gems. It's really more of a commentary on how ridiculously good so many movies were this year. So I liked the movie very much. I thought Adam Sandler was great in it, but I'll be honest with you, me personally, I never felt like it was snubbed. I never felt like it was snubbed, but even though it's really, really, really good. All right. Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, with a Bob out and Bob in, I thought immediately let the R-rated Marvel and Pixar films finally happen. Oh, hell no. I'm definitely exaggerating about the Pixar part, but who knows, maybe this Bob isn't tied down to the same beliefs as Bob Iger. Bring on the filthy." First of all, no, that would be a terrible move for them. And the second thing is this. Remember how we were defining the different roles, the chairman of the board and the CEO. The board will set what the overall direction and determine what the identity and the direction of the company is going to be. Then it is up to the CEO to be in charge of the day-to-day and make that happen. Do the things that they need to do to take the company in that direction and all that kind of stuff. Marvel going R will not fly because that will go against what the board wants the identity of their properties to be. So listen, Bob Chapek is going to have the ability to hire and fire, green light or not green light, whatever it is he wants to do and all that kind of stuff. But what the board would cease him from doing is fundamentally altering the brand, because that's something that goes to a board level. And so, and I think it would be a mistake for them to do that. Listen, there are other people making R-rated comic book films. Let them do it. Marvel's doing great being what they are. So don't mess with that. And so I do not believe that's something the board would allow him to do, because again, that goes beyond the day-to-day fundamental decision-making of the company, and it goes to the whole thing about what is the identity of our brand, and that's something that goes to a board level. So I don't think that's something he'll have the ability to do, nor probably something he would want to do. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor writes, "Hi, John. I'm immensely looking forward to The Way Back with Ben Affleck. Me too, man. The trailers have been great, but I'm worried. The film comes out in a week, and so far there are no tickets for opening night, for Thursday opening night, only Friday. That's interesting. Warner Brothers did the same thing with The Kitchen. Is this a bad sign?" I don't think it's a bad sign, but it's a really weird thing. As a matter of fact, now that you mention it, let me bring this up. Let me go to AMC Theaters' website. And let me go to get tickets. Okay. And I'm going to go to, I'm going to say AMC Burbank 16. And I'm going to go get tickets to the AMC Burbank 16. I'm going to go to Thursday. Let me look this up and see what I can find here. I'm going to go over to Thursday. Why am I not getting Thursday? There it is. I'm going to go to Thursday and see what I can see. All right, we got Call the Wild, The Boy, Parasite is back in theaters. That's good to see. Photograph, Impractical Jokers. I am not seeing it anywhere. Now let me go to the Friday and double check the Friday. I am not. You know what? I might be on the wrong. You know what? Damn it. I was on the wrong week. Sorry. This is me, guys. This is me being a little bit. Okay, so right now, I don't see any tickets for it on the Thursday, but on the Friday, it's there. However, I will say this. If I go right now over to the AMC website, right? This is for the Friday, The Way Back. Now, if I go to the Thursday, there's no tickets for The Way Back, but notice they don't have tickets for anything on sale right now. The only movie they have tickets on sale for this Thursday is Onward. There's nothing else, no other movies. So I don't know if that's definitively saying that The Way Back is, if I go to the Friday, there's The Way Back and there's all the other movies. Oh, actually, only the Beneath Us is there. So I don't know. I don't know what it means or what it doesn't mean. Listen, opening on a Friday instead of the Thursday is a very odd thing to do. It's very rare. I don't necessarily think it means the film is bad. I mean, The Kitchen did that, and The Kitchen was terrible. Like, absolutely terrible. But I don't know if it's actually an indication of anything. So we'll have to wait and see. I certainly hope it's not an indication, because I've got high hopes for The Way Back. I think The Way Back looks amazing. So I've got very, very high hopes. So hopefully Hopefully it's not a bad sign. I don't know. We'll find out soon enough. All right, Mandalorian of Gondor writes, hi, John. I'm immensely looking forward. That was Mandalorian of Gondor. Sorry about that. Let's move on here. John Christopher writes, hello, John. Greetings from Germany. Well, greetings, my friend. Love the show. I just want to wish you a happy birthday. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that. The funny thing is, it's my birthday too. Well, happy birthday to you, my friend. And we also have the same initials, Italian family background, and love the same movies. Have a nice day. Well, there you go. You know, that reminds me, my brother-in-law. So I'm married to Anne. And Anne is a LA girl, Filipino, and her sister married another Canadian, white, Star Wars fan loving, Toronto area raised Canadian dude, just like Anne did. Except, of course, the difference is my brother-in-law, whose name is Stan. Stan is 6'9". Stan is 6'9". So there's a very big significant difference between me and Stan. But yeah, it's kind of funny that way. So same initials, same birthday. Anyway, happy birthday to you, John Christopher. I hope you have a magnificent one. I hope we both have fabulous birthdays today. And thank you so much for the well wishes, man. And thanks for supporting the channel. And have a great day, my friend. May it be a wonderful year ahead of you. All right, Simple writes, happy birthday, John. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day and a successful year ahead. Did you know that Godfather released 17 days after you were born? I did not know that off the top of my head. I just watched this movie a few weeks ago for the first time, and I loved it. It is, listen, Godfather truly is, it's in the argument for the greatest film of all time. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. But The Godfather is absolutely one of the very few films that is in the legitimate discussion of greatest motion picture of all time. And I love talking to people who watch it for the first time to see their eyes open up and go, oh my God. Like, mainly because most people don't realize how influential The Godfather has been on the entire movie industry until they watch The Godfather. Because I've had friends of mine watch The Godfather for the first time, and then it's like, now I know where this movie got this from, and where this movie got this from, and where this movie got this from, and how this movie was influenced. It is seriously one of the most influential movies ever made, and I'm glad you had a chance to watch it, Simple. All right, Star Wars Rocks writes, as Iger is out as CEO, do you think we could actually start getting good Star Wars movies again finally? Well, listen, The Force Awakens is a fan-fucking-tastic movie. Rogue One is a fan-fucking-tastic movie. Solo is a very entertaining little film. I didn't like Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. Hey, it is what it is. But anyway, they've been making great Star Wars movies. Not all of them, and they've had their problems. That said, don't forget, Bob Iger is not the one making the scripts. Bob Iger is not the one reading the scripts. He lets his generals do their thing. So I believe with Bob is not going to make the new movies. That's Lucasfilm will make the movies. They'll let Kathleen Kennedy. But I believe, and I have no insider information on this, I believe that with Bob Chapek coming into power now, I believe he will make personnel changes. And I believe within the next 6 months, we will hear that Kathleen Kennedy has stepped down. Again, I have no proof of that. I'm just speculating. That's all. Just pure fan speculation, may or may not happen. I'm just saying I feel like with him coming in, I think he's going to make a change there. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll wait and see. Sam O'Neill writes, hi all. Have you ever heard of the Gold Coast Film Festival? I have not, as a matter of fact. It even has a night cruise along the Gold Coast with drinks while The Hangover plays. That sounds pretty awesome. From April 15th to the 26th, I think I may go. I'll tell you what, Sam, I don't know that I've heard of it before, but you just did a great sales pitch, my friend. You just did a great sales pitch, and maybe I'll have to look into it too, because just a cruise along the coast while watching The Hangover, that sounds good enough to me. You've got me intrigued, so maybe we'll both go. All right, Matsive Jada writes, there's one thing I think Rise of Skywalker did better than Coco. I don't know that Rise of Skywalker did anything better than Coco. Anyway, Rise of Skywalker dealt more maturely with the idea of being related to a bad person. I saw nothing mature about the way they did that. Anyway, in Coco, it's just revealed. that actually the boy's family and lineage is full of great people, unlike in reality for many kids watching. Oh, I think that's a very pessimistic view, Mats, if I got to say, brother. I think most kids have great families. Certainly there are many that don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. Of course that's true. But my family is filled with wonderful people. I love my family. I've got the odd black sheep in my family. Make no mistake about it. I do. But I mean, I think for the most people, and I think most kids have good families with problems. Sure. And there are definitely those that don't. Absolutely. But I don't think that dealing with one is more mature than the other. And I thought the way they handled the whole thing about Rey and her grandfather being Palpatine, I didn't think that was handled well at all. And I certainly don't feel like it was handled maturely. But that's just my opinion. You looked at it and you felt like it did. And your opinion is no more and no less valid than mine. So if that's how it hit you, that's an interesting observation. I personally disagree. I don't share that observation, but it's a different way of looking at it, and I appreciate that. All right, next up. Toba97 writes, "Hey guys, apparently Tom Holland will continue being Spider-Man beyond the third one." Well, that's up for debate. But his contract, as been reported, was just for 3 movies with Sony. At some point, he's going to have to re-up. You believe if they renew his contract, he could become one of the highest paid actors in the 20s year range. So at some point, if Sony decides to keep moving forward with Tom Holland as their Spider-Man, at some point, Sony is going to have to re-up his contract. And when it comes time to re-up his contract, he is in a very good position to get a raise. Will it be the kind of raise that will make him one of the highest paid actors in his 20s? You know what? With that qualifier of being in their 20s, because a lot of the biggest major stars are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and onwards. I gotta say, he would be in a very good position to do that. He'll have a lot of bargaining positioning power. That's for sure. He'll be in a position of bargaining power. So, you know what? Yeah, I'm not going to say the highest, but one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood in their 20s. A re-up Spider-Man contract with Sony could be very, very lucrative. So yeah, Toba, I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I think you're right. All right. The Facility Guy writes, "There's a YouTuber that's been instructing people to destroy my..." I see where this is going. "There's a YouTuber, I wonder who, that's been instructing people to destroy my butter dispensers by shoving straws up them. How do I get him to stop?" Also, CC should be... closed captioning should be on all movies shown in the US. Check online listings and ask at your local theater for devices. That's actually a good point, because I know a lot of movie theaters do provide devices. I don't know about specialty screenings, but I think you raise a really good point there. What Facility Guy is referring to, of course, is by the way, and I don't shove straws into the dispensers. The straw should go on the outside of the dispenser, just to be clear. But of course, I have a technique when I go to the movies to make sure I get enough butter all throughout my entire bag of popcorn. I put a straw on the end of the butter dispenser, put the straw near the bottom of the bag, start dispensing butter down to near the bottom of the bag, and then I lower the bag to make sure all of my glorious popcorn is perfectly buttered. Butter. All right. Daniel Rahimi writes, "Hey, John, one of life's greatest mysteries is the interest in Funko Pops. Why do people like them? Because they're awesome. I don't understand. People actually spend lots of money on these things. Actually, they're pretty cheap. I mean, the average Funko Pop's $10. It's not like a hot toy that's $250. So, I mean, there's that. Spend lots of money on these things. They don't even take them out of the box. I would spend $1 on these things, please." Okay, so here's the thing about Funko Pops. Let me see if I can grab one here. Okay. So let me just grab this one here. All right. So here is Magneto, right? Here's Magneto. One of the things that I love about Funko Pops is to me, they're inspiring. Creativity, imagination, it all inspires me. And one of the kicks that I get out of Funko Pops, and yeah, I leave them in their boxes just because I think they look great in their boxes. But the thing to me about them is when I look over on my shelves and I see Magneto, or I see Batman, or I see Darth Vader, or I see, I don't know, if I look over here, I see Aquaman, or Jane from Serenity, or I see Ant-Man, or C-3PO, or The Flash, or Weird Al Yankovic. What that does for me is I get inspired, and because I look at these figures and it reminds me of these movies and these properties and these things, and it happens even just when I look at a simple toy in a box like a Magneto, and it just makes me think of Magneto, and I find it inspiring, I find it uplifting, and it just makes me happy. It makes my heart smile. And that's one of the reasons why I collect these things, is because I just like looking over. And again, they're really cheap. They're like $10. A lot of times less. You walk into one of the stores and you can probably find them on the shelves of some stores for like $8 or something like that. And to me, they're again, it's just, I'll use the word again, it's inspiring. I look at that stuff and the idea of Magneto and the creativity behind the character of Magneto, it just reminds me of all that. It gets my own personal creative juices flowing. And it just lets me reminisce about the property that character's involved with. And again, it makes my heart smile. So I can't speak for anybody else as to why other people like Funko Pops. I can only speak for myself. And that's kind of the main reason for me. That's why I personally love them. That's why I get them. I get a big kick out of them, and I like them a lot. Okay. Anyway, just time for a couple more, guys, and then we got to wrap up here. Jonathan Joyner writes, "Happy birthday, John." Thank you so much, Jonathan. Don't forget to try the never-ending pasta bowls at Olive Garden today. Oh, and you are not alone. I also found myself dozing off watching Roma. Yeah, again, everybody I know thinks Roma is like one of the greatest films they've seen in the last couple of years. And that's awesome. But film is subjective, and for whatever reason, Roma didn't really work for me, and that's fine. That's totally cool. But no, I'm not going to be going to Olive Garden today. Actually, I haven't been to Olive Garden in a long time, and I like Olive Garden. But no, Ann and I are going to my favorite restaurant in Burbank tonight. It's called Castaway. I love this place. It's just one of the most gorgeous places you've ever seen. So Ann is taking me to dinner there, and I'm just looking forward to spending a nice, cool, relaxing hangout evening with my wife, which I don't get a lot of these days between running the channel and making the movie right now. I haven't been getting a lot of time with Ann lately, so I'm just so looking forward to just hanging out with the coolest person in the world, who is my wife, and just having a nice, really cool, fun, enjoyable evening. So anyway, thank you for the well wishes, Jonathan. I appreciate that. Mike Thompson writes, "Happy birthday to the best Canadian kid out there." Thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate that, man. Damian Darnford writes, "Happy birthday, John. Wishing you all the best this year." Thank you again, everybody. Luden Swain writes, "Happy birthday from the movie blog to the John Campea Show. A big fan. Moving to LA next year to follow my dreams. You are an inspiration." Dude, that is great. Again, one of the biggest things for people is just actually getting off your ass and doing something about it. Taking some calculated risks and doing things if you actually have a dream. Understanding you got to be careful that, make it calculated risk. Don't do anything foolish, but all that kind of stuff. And if you're pursuing that, man, all the best of luck to you. And thank you for the well wishes. Let's see here. Another Skywalker, dear heavens, tipped $100. So thank you for supporting the channel on that level, Another Skywalker. I appreciate that so much. And if this is a question, we'll address it now, and we'll address it in the next few weeks in its own standalone video as well. Hi, John. I've been watching Disney's Imagineers. Ooh, I've heard that's great. I haven't started watching it yet, but I've heard it's fantastic. And I love it. The company has done some amazing things through the years. With Bob Iger stepping down, I'm wondering, who do you think the best CEO, excluding Roy, was? If you watch Imagineers, the answer isn't easy. That's true. Look, when you go through the history of the leadership at Disney, it's insane. Now, if you take Walt out of the conversation, because the company's named after him, so if we take Walt out of the conversation, as I said before, Another Skywalker, I gotta go Iger. I mean, again, what I said a little bit earlier, everything that kind of Disney is today was kind of defined by Bob Iger. The evolution in the parks, their travel stuff that they revolutionized in the past decade, the acquisition of Pixar and Marvel, been the most dominant force in movies ever since he acquired it. Then, of course, the acquisition of Star Wars, where they've only keep putting out billion-dollar film after billion-dollar film. You look at the moving Disney into the newest era of entertainment with their streaming platform with Disney Plus, the acquisition of Fox and all the titles. I mean, it's really difficult not to say Iger. It really is. But it's an interesting thing. Anyway, Another Skywalker, I am definitely have on my radar and on my plans to get caught up on that Imagineers show that they've got on Disney Plus. I'm very much looking forward to that. And anyway, again, thank you for the well wishes. Thank you for sending in the support, man, and supporting the channel on that level. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. And keep your eyes open, because in the next few weeks, we will also do this question again in its own standalone video. So thanks a lot for that, Another Skywalker. I appreciate that. All right, Anthony Cullen, last couple of questions here, guys. Anthony Cullen writes, happy birthday in your honor today. Started Harley Quinn. I love it. I'm so glad. Like, I love, first of all, I love when our viewers turn me on to a new show or movie. But I also love, almost as much as that, when I get to turn other people on to said show or movie. So I'm glad you started watching, and I hope you're having a good time with it. Zelda Master 702 writes, happy birthday, John. Keep bringing the filthy. Thank you so much, Zelda Master. I totally appreciate that. And thanks to everybody for sending in the well wishes. All right, guys, listen. From Star Wars Rocks, DJ Ridley and Brian Clarkin on. Do not worry. We got to wrap up the show right now, but you sent in these questions. They're going to get answered in a video. It may be, I mean, it's my birthday, so it might be hard, but I'm going to try to do a companion video later. If I don't get around to doing a companion video a little bit later today, because it is my birthday, if you guys will forgive me, I'm going to try to relax a little bit today. I think I'm going to try to hang out with my dogs a little bit, kick back, not worry about my movie, relax a little bit, wait till Ann gets home. Ann's taking off work early, and just hang out with my wife. But I might have time to do a companion video. But if I don't, we'll do what we did today. We'll start off tomorrow's John Campea Show with your questions. So hang in there for that. Your questions are going to get answered if you sent them in. By the way, guys, if you look in the top line of the description of this video, there is the tip link. You can send in your questions anytime 24/7 and make sure that it becomes one of the first questions that get answered on the next day as well. Anyway, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, guys. Again, thank you for all the well wishes. I appreciate it. And thank you for making this show a part of your day and doing us the honor of allowing us to hang out with you a little bit during your day, talking about our favorite things in the world. Don't forget the John Campea Show returns again tomorrow. Listen, do me a favor, guys. A couple things you can do to help the channel. Number one, go down and click on the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. Also, make sure you click the thumbs up button. If you don't have to agree with everything that I or Robert said, but if you enjoy these types of discussions, click the thumbs up button on the video. That really helps the channel as well. And make sure you jump down, add your voice to the conversation, and leave a comment in the comments section below. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today, for this installment of the John Campea Show. Thanks so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.